Welcome to Cody in the Cinema. Today I'm discussing 3 films from great directors from the Criterion Collection that I hope don't get forgotten, that I think you should see, that maybe aren't as talked about as some of their other great works. And the first of these is one I watched during COVID, when we were all kind of quarantined, called Showboat. Now, Showboat, this particular version, was directed by James Whale, the director who did the Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, a few other really good pictures in the horror genre. And he does a great job with this. So this is a story about an actor and her journey, it says on the back, from her family's humble floating playhouse in the 1880s South to the bright footlights of 1930s North, And this has a number of great acting talents, but what it's best known for probably, as you can see here, is this beautiful, one of the great all-time musical performances by Paul Robeson, singing Old Man River. And the musical numbers in this are stunning. There's great pageantry to it. It's a beautiful film from a director who constantly, I think many of us in this community have found we really enjoy. And I know that, I've been appreciating the Old Dark House getting the revival I've seen in the last few years from that. But I hope that Showboat here doesn't get forgotten by this great director, because it's a really good musical. It's a wee bit long and uneven, obviously, but I do think that it's something everybody who's a fan of that director should see, and every musical fan should see who's watching musicals from the collection. All right. The next one is something that I took quite a liking to when I saw it, and really surprised me, from Fellini. So this is in the Fellini box set, and it's really a neat film. It's called The White Shape, and this, if you look here in the guide to the films, you can read a little bit about it. But this was a story that was heavily remixed, and the idea was that this couple was on a honeymoon, and the husband kind of becomes a bit of a laughingstock in the film, and there's like this flooded bathtub and all these really funny scenes, but the wife ends up sort of informally pursuing this talented actor and in his filming process. And the result is something that's both funny and dramatically impactful from Fellini. And again, just the visuals and so forth. And this didn't feel as much Fellini to me as some of his films. And I think it's gone a little bit under the radar by comparison to some of his others. I just wanted to read you this little segment here. Wanda, like a latter-day Madame Bovary, has grown up with romantic fictions that have overtaken her lived reality. But she is also a young woman in Catholic Italy who has few outlets for her sexual desires except in fantasy. And that theme plays out throughout the film. And I think it's a wonderful exploration of that whole topic. And it does have that crisp, great cinematography you expect from Fellini, but did not feel like all of his others in some ways. Such a good filmmaker, he always has something new to show you. But I wanted to bring that one to your attention in case you did have this Fellini set, or you wanted to get it and you hadn't heard of that film. So it's a very good one. And lastly, there's this film that they have right now on a DVD copy. And I'm hoping that sooner or later this thing just gets like an awesome 4K restoration, and that we see a really good release for. This is a film I watched recently that just blew me away, as is usual, from the director Yasujiro Ozu, the great grandmaster of all cinema. This movie was called The Only Son. And The Only Son is 80 minutes some movie. It's not very long. And it's not, I think The Only Son is not as heard of as something like Tokyo Story, Floating Weeds, some of those pictures. But I think it's probably as good as anything he's made. And the story is a very simple one. This woman who works in a factory has a young child, and within the first few minutes we get the inciting event, because this teacher comes and visits with her, and we realize quickly that this boy is going to be going away to school, away from his mother, but it's going to cost her a lot of money. And so how that sort of plays out in the first few minutes is, you'll see if you watch the picture. And the rest of the movie, most of the movie, is about a visit from the mother, and seeing him, this young boy, how he's grown up into a man, and if he's achieved what he originally set out to do, which was to become a great man. And already, if you're an Ozu film fan, that probably sounds to you exactly like something which he would excel, and he does. There are a number of small conversations that any of us could be having with any family member. Now, part of the reason I'm choosing this film and talking about it is because I am an only child, and my own family made sacrifices so that I could go to school. Now, it wasn't quite to the level that is happening in this film, but I can really relate to the character, and you do, on either side of that, feel a sense of pressure. If you're the son, you want to live up to expectations. If you're the parent, you want to be able to provide what you can to help that child, son, daughter, whoever it is. And there are a number of special, powerful conversations in the film that I think anybody's going to relate to, just like any of the films that Ozu makes. In fact, when I was watching this and watching the family deal with some of the realities and how these things played out over the years, it's so funny to me that many people will resist films with subtitles, not in English, when I feel like a lot of what I was seeing in that conflict and the daily economic realities many of us face, is much closer to what we all experience rather than something like, I don't know, a sequel to an action movie. And so I was immediately completely in love with the film. Some of the factory shots when the camera stops and gives us time to process how hard that work is, that's brilliant. The pillow shots of Ozu, all of that's in there when we stop and we're given time to think and process. And there's a beautiful conversation between the mother and the son that's heartbreaking, and it happens in this field where they can see trash burning in the distance, and it's still beautiful because Ozu films are beautiful. And I'm hoping, even though that does have a DVD copy with a really cool piece of artwork, I'm hoping that Criterion will pick this back up and make a very nice copy or edition of it. So those are three films that I had thought of from great directors that I hope don't kind of fall along the wayside. If you like any of those films and you want to comment on them or those directors, let me know in the comments. I always love hearing your feedback. And if you could do me a favor and click that like button, that does help grow the channel. And consider, please subscribe. I go over lots of Criterion topics, different film ideas, movie things. So that's something you should do. And we'll see you next time on Cody in the Cinema.